How long do you generally go?
I mean, every now and then you get a chance to chop it up with a guy named Wade. And how long do we go? We go till you can't stop anymore, till you can't stop talking.
Sounds good to me.
That might be a while. Wade, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I don't know. Got the blood flowing to the brain. Did 4 podcasts today. You're my fifth. I think this is going to be my best one of the day.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. No disrespect for the others, but I got faith in me.
Well, faith is what matters. Faith is all that matters at the end of the day.
100%, my friend.
So, talk a little bit about your story.
So, obviously, we'll break it down throughout the show, but in a nutshell, in 2018, I was involved in a shooting where I was subsequently charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. As I said, we'll get more into that, the details of it later, but this was at my home, mind you. I was arrested. I was able to make bond, and throughout basically the next 5 years, I had to fight this case, which I was lucky because a lot of people don't get a chance to fight cases from the outside, which is what makes it so hard. But due to I had no criminal record, I'm not a street guy. I'd never been arrested for anything before. Worst thing on my record was a traffic ticket. I was able to fight it from the outside. During the middle of fighting it, around COVID, I got
When,
the idea to start a
when you say,
podcast.
when you say fight it from the outside, what do you mean?
So a lot of people, when they get arrested for murder, they're not allowed bond.
Oh, got it, got it.
So I was,
You were
yeah,
out on you were out in bond.
yeah, I was out on bond.
Trust me,
And
it's hard to fight it from the inside.
oh, you 100%. And when COVID started, I had the idea to start a podcast. My lawyer gave me the okay. He just said, "Don't talk about anything involving your case," because obviously it was still ongoing. And it got popping, and I was interviewing ex-mob guys, drug smugglers, lawyers, um, law enforcement members, wrestlers, actors, authors, movie stars, TV stars, you name it, covering the gambit. And so finally we got a resolution out of this thing. And it was a long journey, but obviously you can tell it turned out well because we're having this conversation.
Well, there's no glass between us. Well, wait a second. There is a little bit of glass. What
A little bit, a little bit.
So, what was the result of the case?
So the final result was the case was dismissed. We didn't go to trial.
It's the best result you could ask
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, just dismissed. And it should have been dismissed from the start. Like there was no evidence to back their case. There was no evidence to support their theory of what happened. As a matter of fact, all the forensics evidence, which I of course had to pay for my forensics guys to come down and do all this testing in my house that the cops aren't going to do for you because they're not going to help you out in any means. You have to pay to get this done, which is why if you're in a situation where you're using a public defender, you can't get that. A public defender won't hire a forensics investigator from New York to fly to South Carolina, where I'm at, come in your kitchen, set up cameras, and set up,
I'll be honest with you, if
laser
they came into my
tracing.
kitchen right now with forensic evidence, I don't even know what they would find. I haven't cleaned my kitchen in forever. Do they clean up after they're done? Because if they do, I might have somebody come over and do that for me.
They do, they do. It's real cool, man. It's like the CSI stuff. They come over and they set up the laser trackers and everything, and it kind of trace the bullets
All
past.
right, I got to draw the line right there. If they got laser trackers, my dogs will be chasing that thing all over the
Oh
place.
yeah, yeah.
It'll be a nightmare.
But after it was all said and done, man, I mean, all the evidence was on our side. There was nothing to support their narrative. And, we may have had a quicker resolution to this had COVID not come up. My lawyer refused to work through Zoom or Skype or anything like that. He said, I don't do camera work. I'm not an actor. I'm a lawyer. I work in a courtroom. That's my workplace. That's where I do my thing. And, luckily I landed a job in the middle of all this and the guy knew about the situation. He was really cool. So I wasn't like in dire need of needing to get a resolution. And that's another thing where I caught a break. I caught a lot of breaks because a lot of times what happens is people can't find employment. So it's hard and they need to get a resolution. And sometimes people are more apt to cop to plea deals, even if they didn't do it, just so they can, get it
Get on
behind
with
them and
life.
get on with their life. Yeah. And I refuse to do that.
So what happened? I mean, was it a situation where the Domino's pizza guy came over and the pizza was just all wrong?
Not quite, not quite. I'm not, I'll eat about anything. So it won't ever escalate to that with the pizza guy. But, as always, man, it goes back to relationships, and me and my wife had a rough go of it. A lot of things led up to the decision. I was in a bad car wreck. I lost a spot where I worked at. I didn't lose my job, but I lost my position. That affected me pretty bad. Still making money, but not as much money. And, as a man, when you're the provider of the house, when you're not bringing in the dough like you were, that affects you. And then I had another friend of mine who seemingly on the outside had it all together. And then one night he chose to unalive himself. And as I dug more into the story, there was a lot of fighting going on behind the scenes that not a lot of people knew about. And in my mind, where I was
Wait a
sitting,
sec. Wait a second. This guy that unalived himself, that was in your house?
no, 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 no. This was not in my house. This was actually about 5 houses down from where I live at. He was a
And
friend of mine.
and that had nothing to do with your case.
No, no, nothing to do
Oh,
with my case. It was just that led to me deciding to file for divorce and separate from my wife because once I started finding out why he did that, like obviously we were friends, and I was like, well, what led him to do that? And then there was just a lot of arguing behind the scenes with his wife. And so in my mind, I'm like, God, is this what it leads to? Is that the answer? So I'm just like, I don't want that to happen. So, I told my wife, I was like, look, I want a divorce. I'm sorry. It's not working out. It's not, whatever. And we pressed forward with that. Now the deal we made was I would move out and she could stay in the house and I would still pay everything. But if she met somebody, I was going to come back home. And she agreed to that. My wife's an attractive woman. Didn't take her long to meet somebody. She told me. She moved out. I moved back in,
you helped
and
her
this
out.
was
You
cool.
paid for some like Tinder dates.
Yeah, yeah, probably. But I
all,
mean, it was
all
we were
expense paid.
amicable,
Date here. Date my soon to be ex-wife.
but we were amicable. Not I wouldn't say on the best of terms, but we were getting along anyway.
Listen, it's never on the best of terms. It's either I hate you or let's just end this nice and calmly.
Yeah, and that's what we tried to do. And this was in 2017, and October 31st, Halloween night. That was her last night in the house. I moved in November. So we didn't talk very much after that at all. She was doing her thing. I was doing mine. We were scheduled with the divorce. Everything was going through as
You didn't have
planned.
any kids, no kids, no
We did
puppies.
have kids, but when we moved out, so the neighborhood that we live in is like one community with like 6 or 7 subdivisions within that community. She moved 2 subdivisions back.
Close.
So not very far at all. When I was not working, kids could come over and hang with me, vice versa. All that was real easy to work out and
That actually
manage.
works out great.
Yeah, it did. It did. All things considered. To start with, I wasn't too happy about it. I was like, damn, now I got to bump into y'all at Publix, but I'm like, I don't even really go to the grocery store that much. So, I'm eat out a lot. But, we were rolling along, man. And I'd say around December, we started to try to figure out what we were going to do with the kids and Christmas and how we're going to navigate this. Cause this is the first time we had, been split up since we were together. My son, I think was like 7 or 8 at the time. We had a daughter who was about to graduate high school. And so we had a conversation about how we were going to handle it. And then, you could just tell there was a little something there from the phone call, like maybe a little ember still burning, but nothing that we were going to jump right back into. And we just kind of kept in contact a little more than we had after Christmas, because we did hang out a little bit for Christmas. And as we began to talk a little bit more, I knew that her and the guy were having issues because he wasn't staying over there anymore. When I would go to pick up my son, I never would see his car. And she told me they were having some issues. And of course, I was giving it to her. I'm like, well, you are hard to live with. That's why we're in the situation we're in. And she gave it right back to me. Well, you're hard. You ain't easy to live with either, which is true. So that kind of progressed to where we started talking a little bit more. And before you know it, we're thinking, hey, is this something that we can maybe salvage? And so the what we agreed to was like, all right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to finish this divorce. We're going to run it out, get the divorce, and we're going to date. We're going to start over, fresh page, clean slate. If it looks like something we maybe can salvage, we'll go to the courthouse. We'll get a $50 wedding. We're not doing the whole shenanigans over again. If it looks like, hey, we love each other, but we can't be together because that is a very common thing. You love them, but you can't live with them. Then we're divorced and we go our separate ways. And that's what we agreed on. So in April, we made the decision we were going to move in together, figure out how we were going to do this, plan it out, see what happens. So she made a decision to completely cut off the guy she was seeing. I made the decision to completely cut off the girl that I was seeing. The girl that I was seeing, frankly, could have cared less. Didn't make no difference to her either way. She threw the peace sign, said, I hope everything works out. See you. Him or the gentleman that she was with, it wasn't quite as simple as that.
It's always the guys. Guys have a hard time letting go. Girls, they're like, fuck, I just go back to Tinder. I'll get 15
Yeah.
responses by tomorrow morning.
Well, and my thing too was like this dude had to know what he was coming into, right? A married couple together for a while. You're the rebound guy. I was the rebound guy before. I was fine with it. I played my role. When I was done being played with after I was the rebound, I went on and bounced on down the damn street. It's it happens. And he didn't get that. He didn't know the role.
Well, wait a second. Where was this, by the way? Where were you guys living?
South Carolina,
Oh,
Charleston, South
cool.
Carolina.
Charleston? I love
Yep.
South Carolina.
Yeah, yeah, nice spot. Charleston, South Carolina. And which is a very gun-free state, like very lenient gun
Really?
law. We have the castle law down here.
What
And
do you
yeah,
mean gun free? Like I assume South Carolina, everyone's got a gun.
well, most if you're the oddball if you don't really. That's what I'm saying. So that's why this whole thing going the route that it did was really head scratching. But the night in question, so she tells him, she's going to move back home. He gets upset. Now, mind you, I'm telling you this now after the fact. I did not know this then. He got upset. There was a physical altercation between the two of them. He broke her phone. I was not able to get in contact with her for a while until finally later on, my daughter called me and she was using her phone to tell me that, he had broken her phone. The guy had broken my wife's personal phone. But she said, don't worry, he's not even here. Well, what had happened in that is once she told him, he got upset, he broke her phone, he made her ride around in the car and look for me. As they were riding around the neighborhood, because like I said, we're not too far from each other, they went by my house. I wasn't there. They went to a friend of mine's house that we all knew. My wife knew him. I knew him. The guy knew him a little bit. And they stopped there. And so he comes up to the window and he said, the guy, he comes up to the window. He said he could tell the guy's name was Liam. They could tell he looked upset and he was like, what's going on, guys? And he said, some people call me Chip. And he says, I'm looking for Chip because when I find him, I'm gonna fucking kill him. And he's like, he knew right then.
Wait, he's talking about you, right?
Yeah, he's talking about me. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like,
that's a nickname that some
no,
people.
I'm like, who's this guy, Chip? How did he get involved? Chip
Well,
was, fuck, don't shoot me.
out.
I'm not even involved in the deal.
That helps out later on. I'll get into that portion of it too. So he immediately noticed something's wrong. He gets the guy to kind of calm down. He's like, after this, we have this conversation. He's like, I just wanted to get him away from her because I could tell she was upset and he was mad. So he winds up getting him to agree to come back to his house. Well, before he gets there, he calls me and he's like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but if you ride by my house and you see Liam's car here, don't stop. And I'm like, well, all right, well, you got to give me a little bit more information than that. And he was like, well, all I know is he's upset. And I was like, well, I got a pretty good idea of probably why he's upset. He got some news that he probably wasn't too happy about. And he's like, I don't know, I'm gonna find out. But he's like, I just don't want anything going down at my house. So if you ride by, you see his car here, don't think I'm trying to, because me and him were friends. He's like, I don't think I'm trying to be whatever. He's like, I just don't want anything happening in my house. I'm like, no, you're good, man. I ain't got nothing to say to him. And so I go home. About that time, I get the phone call from my daughter. She lets me know that, their mom's phone was broken. That's when she tells me he's not even here. So I'm giving all this to you after the fact. I didn't know all that had taken place in the middle. So I go home and I talk to her. She says she's good. She's there with the kids. Everything's good. This is probably midnight. I hang up. It's about 12:45, closer to 1. I get a text message. It's from the guy, Liam. And he asked me, he says, are you up? And I said, yeah, I'm up. And he said, look, man, he said, I want to talk. He said, I don't want drama. I don't want any BS. I got a few questions. I feel like you'll give me some straight answers. And if you're more comfortable doing it at Jamie's house, we can do it at Jamie's house. Jamie was the guy whose house he was at. And I said, yeah, I'm cool with that. I was like, give me a little bit. So I get dressed. I go out. Now, mind you, my house.
What time is this?
Probably about 1 a.m.
Oh, yeah, that would be like, listen, I'm tired. I'm in bed. We'll talk.
Well,
We'll talk
at that
tomorrow.
point in time, man, I was living a vampire style life. I was up all night anyway and sleeping during the day. I was out because I had had a back surgery. I was out of work. The car wreck that I referenced earlier, I just had a procedure on my back, which is key in this whole thing, where they basically burn the nerve endings away from the
Oh
spine.
shit! I know exactly what that is. That's painful as fuck.
It is painful. It's called
shit.
I forgot what
It's the lower back, yeah.
Yeah.
And they convince you and they tell you, yeah, we'll just seal these two bad boys together. You'll be fine. No, the after effects are horrible.
Yeah, it's sore. You're sore as shit.
Yeah,
And so
you can
my mobility,
you'll never sit down comfortably again.
yeah, my mobility to this is already not very good. And so he calls me. I go down there, and immediately right off the bat, what he wants is, now, mind you, I'll go back just a second. When I leave, like I said, I'm from the South, right? When I leave, you carry all the same shit: your phone, your keys, your gun. That's part of my outfit. Always had it. I've been a CWP holder for, at that point, I think 2 years. I don't shotgun since the day I was 18. I don't handgun since the day I was 21. I owned this gun for over 5 years. I've been pulled over with this gun by North Charleston Police Department years prior. The numbers ran. Everything backed up that this was my carry weapon. So I leave. Yes, I had it on me. We go there. Immediately, what he wants to know is, he's questioning me is, hey, has this been going on longer than I was told? Because my wife told him, look, we just decided we're going to get back together and try to make things work for our kids. He's thinking it's been going on for longer than that, and that's what he's drilling me for. And I was like, look, I don't really owe you an explanation. At the end of the day, that's still my wife. Like, you guys have been doing whatever, we split up, but like, that's still my wife. I don't owe you an explanation for shit. But to give you an answer, no, we just decided that we're going to get back together and make it work. I was like, maybe you should do the same thing on your side. He was, split from his wife, who he had kids with. And, it went from like a tense situation in the beginning to then leveling off really quick, because he knew I wasn't going to give him what he was looking for. He found that out real quick. So even though this is a very strange situation, Chris, it wound up being three dudes in a garage late at night talking about different shit, talking about their military careers, talking about families, talking about jobs. And the conversation was never heated really anymore that night. And so now we fast forward, it's about 3:30 in the morning. Jamie, the guy that lives there, he says, man, I'm done. I'm going to shut it down for tonight. He looks at the guy. He said, do you want to stay here? And he's like, nah, I'll just have Chip run me home. And so he looks over at me and he's like, you good with that? And I said, yeah, I'm good with that. Like I said, we've been good for a while. So we get in my car. Now, mind you, my house from Jamie's house is 7 houses. We don't live far apart. I drove that night because it was still a little chilly. So I did drive down there. So we get in the car and I'm fixing to go drop him off. And he looks at me and he said, if I go back to that house, we're probably going to start arguing. I said, look, man, I lived with her for 14 years. I know exactly what you've been through these last 6 months. You've been on a cakewalk. And we laugh it off. And he's like, look, man, do you care if we just go to your house and hang out? He's like, I really don't want to go back there. And I'm like, nah, that's cool. So my original thought was, I'm going to hang out outside. Don't want to go inside. So we pull up into the garage in the driveway. And the garage was shut. We pull up in the driveway and he starts asking me questions. And he's like, do you know why I wear this bracelet? And he holds up this bracelet. And I'm like, bro, I really don't know anything about you. I was like, I know your name. I know you were in the military, but that's about it, other than what I just learned back there. And he says, I was in the military. And he said, I tried to save this guy's life. His head got blown off in front of me. I done what I could to save him. The Army said I didn't do the right thing. They discharged me. And that's why I'm messed up in the head the way I am. And I'm like, okay. And and he starts crying at that point. This guy's sitting in my car and I see tears roll down his face. So at that point, I'm thinking vulnerability is shown. Like I'm not fearing anything from him. I'm not picking up angry vibes. Now I'm picking up a guy that needs somebody to talk to. He's down and out, like down, sad. What actually happened in the situation that he was talking about, and I found this out later, was he never was in combat. He was in the Army, but he was intelligence. He gave a guy with whom he was close to bad information that led him in to a bad situation, which resulted in that guy getting shot, which did result in his death, which also resulted in him being whatever from the Army. What do you call it? I said it a minute ago. Discharged. And so I'm sure it bothered him. I'm sure it probably, kept him up at night. I'm sure he probably did have anxiety over it, but he made it to me seem like he was there. Now, I don't know if he was trying to compare situations, because that situation that I referred to earlier with the friend that made that, unfortunate decision, Jamie, the guy's house we were at, he was with me when we found him. So I don't know if he was trying to compare stories Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. He placed himself there when he really wasn't. He was intelligent. So that aside, we go on in the house. We're talking about our kids, his kid, my kids, his ex-wife, my wife, where he is from, all kinds of different things. We get on the subject of tattoos. I'm going to pull down my shirt here. You can see these tattoos. I'm pretty heavily tattooed. I got them on my arms and everything else. And when he starts talking about one of my son's friends, and he's like, her mom was saying, she thought tattoos were trashy and everything else. And I'm like, well, some people think that. I was like, but I'm covered with them. And when I pulled down that shirt, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a scar right here. Yeah, open heart surgery. So he said that open heart surgery in 2001, senior year in high school. Yeah.
What'd they do? Replace a valve?
It was a hole in the heart, a VSD. They knew about it since birth. And then senior year in high school, they decided to patch the hole. So it never bothered me. I never had any effects from it. They just decided senior year to patch it. And so it, put a damper on my senior year, obviously, but I came through it and no effect since then. Thank the good Lord. So when he sees that, he's like, hey man, what's that? And I was like, oh, I had open heart surgery in 2001. So he grabs my shirt and like pulls it up to the point where he wants to see the whole scar. And when he did that, Chris, there's no way he didn't see the gun that was on my hip. Cause like I said, I had it the whole time. When we got back to my home, I have a 2-story house. All my bedrooms are upstairs. I don't have any bedrooms downstairs. It's living room, kitchen, office, everything else, all the bedrooms upstairs. So I never went upstairs to take it off because that's some people always ask this question. Well, what are you doing with a gun in your kitchen? Well, I had it on me when I left. When we came back, I never went upstairs. We were in the downstairs part of the house. So he sees that. There's no way he didn't see it. He doesn't make a mention of it, doesn't say anything about it. As a matter of fact, when he sees that scar, he looks me dead in my eye and he said, man, under different circumstances, he said, you and I have probably been really good friends. And I said, you're probably right. Cause I'll be honest, he did seem like a cool guy other than the fact that, the situation was what it was. So he goes to the bathroom. He's like, where's your bathroom? I point him to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom. Now this was like 6 a.m. at this point. Like we're up all night long here.
I'm getting tired just listening to this story. I want to take a nap.
So he's in the bathroom. I haven't texted my wife since 1 a.m. when I told her I was going down there to talk to him. That's the last time I've had any communication with her. So I just texted her real quick. I'm like, hey, we're all good. Everything's good. So I'm standing in my kitchen with my back to the stove. I hear the door open from the bathroom. He comes out. He walks down the hall. The way my kitchen is set up, when you walk into the hall and you take a right, you're in the kitchen. You're actually immediately by the refrigerator when you take a right. So it goes up, a little bit of counter space, comes back the other way, stove, which is where I was standing, a little bit more counter space, comes back up in the sink. Everything's kind of closely confined there together. He comes straight up to me when I'm standing at the stove, boom, hand, like not around the throat really, but more like up under the neck, pushes me up. I slide up onto the stove. It's a flat top glass stove. I slide up onto the damn stove and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And I'm looking at his eyes, man. And his eyes just like, there was nothing there. They were like glass. And I managed to slide back to the floor. He's steady trying to push me back. So again, mind you, I can't really move all that well, but I'm pushing back forward. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he looks me dead in my eyes and he says, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I told him, I said, bro, if you don't get off me, I'm going to shoot you. And he cocks back his right hand. I could see it coming. He's already coming through. He's holding me with the left. And as soon as it gets there, I lift up my chin just a little bit and he clips the bottom of my chin. He doesn't get a flush hit on the side of the face. When he clips me, his momentum carries him and he lets go. When he let go, I drew out and I shot. Boom, boom. I thought it was twice. Actually, it was 3 times. I found that out later. He dropped. I immediately picked up the phone. I called 911, talked with them. They told me some things to do. I stayed on the phone with them until the dispatcher got there. I walked outside with my hands up, just what they told me to do. They put me in the car. And first, they said, you're not under arrest. We're just putting you in handcuffs till we can assess the situation. So they cuffed me up. They put me in the car. Mind you, now this is 6:37-ish in the morning. People are starting to come out. This is now Sunday morning from Saturday night. People are starting to get up, get moving, go to church. So now you got 2 cop cars there that were the first 2 responding officers. I'm in the back seat. Now you got an ambulance pulling up. Now you got two SUV emergency things. Now you got 4 or 5 cop cars. The whole block is lined up. People looking out the window, people driving by, people I know, people pulling up on golf carts. I know a lot of people in the neighborhood, and they're all seeing me in the back of this car. So about, I'd say 45 minutes after being in the car, a lady comes over there and she reads me my rights, starts telling me I'm under arrest. And she obviously, she does the whole spiel. She said, is there anything you want to say, whatever. And I'm like, no, not without a lawyer. And she walks away. So I'm in this car, what seems like forever. The ambulance comes. They wait a little bit. I see them put him in there and they drive off. More cop cars come. My wife shows up. I see her out the back of the cop car. Finally, I motioned to one of the cops. I was, telling him to come here. And I said, look, man, I got to use the bathroom. And he's like, nah, you got to hold it. I was like, brother, there ain't no holding. Like, I'm either going to go in the car or you can let me go in the yard or we can go in the house, but I got to go. He lets me out. We go in my house and he's like, this is your house? And I said, yeah, I live here. This is my house. And so he sends me upstairs, lets me use the bathroom. They take all my clothes, everything but my drawers and socks. They take my boots, my pants, my shirt, everything. I get dressed. I'm thinking I'm about to go back to the car, put in handcuffs. And he says, there's somewhere you can go while we finish our investigation. And I'm like, well, yeah. And I said, I can go to my buddy's house around the street. It's 222, Decatur, whatever it was. And he
Hey,
was like,
I
all
live on
right,
Decatur.
I do too.
I live on Decatur in Vegas.
And he said, all right, we'll do that. So I leave, I go out. My buddy was sitting across the street in a golf cart. So I get on the golf cart. I was like, take me to your house. So we go over there. I'm waiting, chilling, obviously telling him what happened.
You're not under arrest anymore.
At this point, no. So I went from being detained to under arrest. Now I'm free to go to somewhere where they can find me later.
So all you have to do when you get arrested is say you got to go to the bathroom and they let you go.
Apparently, at least temporarily, So the guy finally comes over there. Now, by this time, my mom's been notified. She lives about 2 hours away. She's at the house. She don't even know I'm gone. She don't even know really what all's going on. And the arriving detective comes by. I go out to the car and he was like, look, we're done over there. He said, when can you come in and answer some questions? I said, well, look, I'm not answering nothing without a lawyer. And he said, well, who's your lawyer? And at the time, I had the guy that I was using for my divorce. So I told him, and he was like, yeah, we know him. He's a former cop. He's like, we'll set it up, let you come in. I'm like, all right, so I can go back home. And he's like, yep, you're free to go back home. I said, what about any kind of mess? And he's like, I don't know if there's a mess. He's like, but that's on you to clean up. And I was like, all right. So come to find out that is true. They have no authority or legal right to clean up any sort of a mess after a crime scene. That is solely on the homeowner to do. If it's bad enough, you'll have to call CSI or whoever. In this case, there was hardly no blood at all, Chris. My mom had been there, went inside, and had cleaned it up with 2 napkins. That's how little amount of blood had transferred from 3 gunshot
wounds. Did he die or is he?
Yes, he died.
Okay.
He was alive when the ambulance got there. He was alive when they got him in the ambulance. And I heard that he was alive once he was at the hospital. The percentage that I got was he got a 1% chance of living once he got to the hospital. Obviously, that's not great odds. He did not make it. And I kept getting bills to my house from all the stuff that they removed from him. I don't know how in the world they expected him to live. It was every organ I've ever heard of and some that I've never heard of listed on that thing. It was like an $80,000 bill.
Well, how are you getting billed for it?
It wasn't me getting billed. It has his name on it, but it was being sent to my address because that's where he picked him up at. I guess that was the only address they had where he come from.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, hospital bills are weird because they're like a mafia organization when it comes to billing you. Like either no, your insurance company didn't cover that. Well, the fuck they didn't. Then you like call up the insurance guy. It's like a little game they play. Yeah. And the hospital tries to double bill you. The insurance company says we paid it, but we only paid part of it. And the hospital said, hey, you got to pay the other part. And I'm like, no, that's between you and the insurance company. No, you're ultimately liable. Like the hospital bills, I'm telling you, it's like fighting the mafia.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's all a game to them. And so that aside, I wind up going the next day, I go to my lawyer's office. And I was, like I said, I've never been in trouble before. Definitely not to this magnitude anyway. And I go in there and I'm telling him what it is. And he's like, look, give me your statement. And he's like, we're not going to go talk to them. He's like, we don't go to the police station. He's like, I'm going to take your statement. I'm going to tell them to submit me the questions they want to ask you. And then I submit the statement. If there's anything different, then I'll bring you back in to answer anything different that's not in there. And I'm like, all right. So I write out the statement.
That's smart.
I leave. I'm thinking everything's good. He calls me 30 minutes after I'm gone. He said, hey, he said, everything I want to know, you answered in your statement. If you need anything else from me, I'll let you know. I'm like, all right. Monday goes by. Good. Tuesday afternoon, get a phone call. Now, mind you, I haven't really slept this entire time. Like all that happened Sunday morning. Adrenaline's through the roof. Didn't really sleep that night. I go see him that morning. Finally might have did get a little bit of sleep Monday. Tuesday afternoon, lawyer calls. He said, hey, I got some bad news. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in any kind of legal trouble or any kind of legal situation, but when your lawyer calls and says, I got some bad news, that's not a good thing.
It's never good news.
And what he said was, hey, man, they're charging you with murder and you got to turn yourself in tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And I said, what the hell? And he was like, don't know. I don't know the specifics. He said, but because I'm representing you, this is why they're not coming and picking you up right now. And I told him you would be there tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And I'm like, why? How are they arresting me? Like, what are they trying to say? And he's like, dude, I don't know. He's like, I don't know if they're trying to spin this, that, this was a love triangle thing and you killed him to get your wife back. And I'm like, we were already getting back together. I was like, they got the idea right, but the person wrong. I was like, he was the one mad because we were getting back together. And he's like, look, man, I believe you. He's like, but I'm just telling you what the circumstances are. And so I was like, all right, I'll call you back. So I start calling everybody I know. And I'm like, who do I call for, to defend me in a murder case? And I start getting one name thrown back. Everybody I called, Andy Savage, Andy Savage, Andy Savage. So I call up his office and they had he was gone already. I talked to the secretary, leave her the message. Somebody called me back within like a half hour. I told him the situation. And she said, can you be here tomorrow at 2 o'clock? I said, no, ma'am. She said, why is that? I said, well, I got to be in jail at 12. So I'm not going to be able to make that. And she said, can you be here at 7 a.m.? I said, man, I can come there tonight and sleep in a parking lot if you need me to, but I'll be there at 7 a.m. So we went there. We gave him the spiel. It was me, my wife, my mom. We told him everything. And he kind of sits back in his chair, one of them little numbers. And he said, why are we here? And I'm like, what do you mean, why are we here? You told me to be here at 7. And he's like, no, I mean, why are we here? He said, if everything you're telling me is true, and believe me, my people will find out if you're lying about anything. He said, if what you're telling me is true, there's no reason why you're sitting in this chair in my office having to retain me as your legal counsel because you didn't do anything wrong. He said, you defended yourself. You gave a warning which you did not have to. And you used a gun that you purchased legally, that you own legally, that you're legally, can carry. And you defended yourself in your home, which falls under self-defense and counsel law. He said, there's no reason we should be having this conversation. I said, look, I agree with you. I was like, but, here we are. And so he makes a phone call. And with a phone call, he comes back in and he said, hey, I got your surrender pushed back to Friday. He said, I'm probably going to get it pushed back to Sunday, but I just needed that to get a little work done. So we started telling him more. And as we're telling him stuff, and my wife's telling most of the stuff because she got more info about the guy than I did, they're printing stuff off the computer. They're getting papers. They're getting records. They're digging up stuff. It looked like something out of a movie, like out of a Tom Clancy novel, and they're doing deep dives and backgrounds. And they had so much on that guy within just the first little bit where he had issues with ex-wives and, been charged with this and, had background stuff with this where, stuff with domestic shit, when he was with the Army and all kinds of stuff they were digging up. And it got time to pay. And the lawyer, or that wasn't the lawyer, but like the paralegal or the secretary, she's like, well, I don't know how you guys want to pay, but she's like, it's $50,000 to take the case. And he'll need another $15,000 on retainer to start doing the, investigation. So do you guys want to set up a payment plan or anything like that? Do without missing a beat. My wife, and she's still my wife. We're still together. We never got divorced. We're still together to this day, right this very day. Like a G, went in the pocketbook, pulled out 2 credit cards, charged one for $20,000, charged one for $10,000. My mama charged a credit card for $20,000. And within a matter of seconds, we accumulated $50,000 worth of debt. They give me some legal counsel, and we paid him in full. And I said, I'll do payments on the retainer. And she's like, that's more than enough. We'll get started. So he eventually did get the surrender pushed all the way back to Sunday. He starts doing his thing, all what he does on the legal side. And then Saturday night, we basically, I don't want to call it a party, but we had a little get together, because when you're going in for murder, you don't know if you're going to get bond. And I caught a break because in here where we're at in South Carolina, you can only get seen get a bond hearing from the circuit court. You can't get that from a magistrate. The circuit court rotates county to county. So if it's not in your county when you get locked up, you sit there until it rotates back around, which could take God knows I don't know how long. Luckily, they were in my county. They were in Berkeley County. So we have a little get together at my house Saturday night, friends, family, close friends and family. Sunday, it was literally like that scene out of Goodfellas. I go get in the car, my wife and my mom was driving, stepdad, and I was like, all right, take me to jail. So they took me to jail. They dropped me off. They booked me in there. And then Monday morning, I go in front of the judge. We had a bond hearing Monday morning the next day. We go in this bond hearing. This was the biggest courtroom I'd ever seen. Mind you, the walk from the holding cell where I was at to this courtroom, I'm not even going to sit here and try to say like I'm hard or, nothing bothered me. And I wasn't afraid. I was scared shitless. This walk that they took me down, it was like a dungeon, like I was walking into hell. It's all underground. It's underground from the jail to the courthouse. We go in there and they put me in there with about, I'd say 9 other guys that were being seen by court, all this serious shit because they're all going in front of the same kind of court I am. A guy's in there for setting a sister on fire. Another guy's in there
Oh
for
shit.
murder. Another guy's in there for going to testify on another murder in Atlanta. And all of them are talking and all of them are in the jumpsuits, and I'm in there in street clothes because I just got in there the day before. And somebody even recognized me. He said, I know who you are. I said, you was on the news yesterday. And I kind of looked over at him. He said, we get TV in here. We see what's going on. And he said, who you seeing? And I said, I don't know. I was like, whoever's on the bench. And he responded back with somebody. I didn't know the judge's name. I didn't even know anything about that. And he said, you'll be all right. He said, who's your lawyer? I told him, Manuel Savage. He's like, you good. I'm like, well, you say that, but I'm still sitting in here doing this. And so we go in, and anything I've ever seen, I didn't know a ton about the legal system and how it worked, but any show I've ever seen, any movie, when somebody's going up for bond, when the judge makes the decision, they either say bond granted or bond denied, right? I don't know if you know of any difference, but that's what I've always heard. The state goes through their spiel. They're calling me a cold, calculated killer, and I don't deserve to be on the streets. And, the kids aren't safe and everything else. And of course, my lawyer's saying the exact opposite. Look, he's had the same job for 15 years, been in the community for 7 years. He's got kids in school, kids in sports, daughters in school. He's never been in trouble a day in his life. They're back and forth. The judge looks at him and she said, all right, I'll make my decision and let you know. Boom, hits the gavel. I turned around and looked at my lawyer and like at this time, now mind you, I'm handcuffed wrist to wrist, chained to ankle, ankle to ankle. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And he said, I guess that means you'll let us know. And so they're already dragging me out. They're already dragging me out of the room. Next person's coming in. We get back in the room with the bailiff and I looked at him and I was like, I said, so what does that mean? She'll let us know. And he's like, she'll probably have a decision in a week or so. And I'm like, a week or so? I can't stay in here a week or so. I done good one night I was in here. I was like, I can't stay in here in a week or so. And he started laughing. He's like, it might not take that long. So I get back finally to the holding cell. Hours later that night, I called my wife and she's like, hey, I don't know why they didn't do it there, but she's like, you've already got bond, but you might not get out until tomorrow. And I was like, well, if I got to do one more night, I can do one more night. Now, mind you, I think this night is in the holding cell. So I'm in there. People are still getting out. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. People are still getting called to get out. 10:30, door opens up. Williamson. I'm on the top bunk. I think I sprung from the top bunk all the way to the door halfway across the room. I go outside. I was like, all right, I'm getting out of here. He's like, nah, you're getting transferred to CPOT. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting out of here tomorrow. Like, I already got bond. He's like, yeah, that may be true, but, still got to transfer you. It's just how the numbers work. You're the next one up. I'm like, so you mean I got to go into the pod? And he's like, yeah. He's like, oh, you'll be all right. It's Charlie pod. I'm like, I don't know what that means. That's not doing anything for me. So he gives me the orange jumpsuit, the shower shoes, the 3-in-1 body wash, the cup, toothbrush, toilet paper, the whole 9 yards. I got the red carpet treatment there. They walk me into Charlie pod, and I walk in. It's really this gigantic room with a door opening on the bottom. When you walk in, it's just one big ass room with double bunk beds on each side, all the way from one end to the other, and tables in the middle. Same thing up top. I didn't go up top. I went in the bottom. Of course, all the bottom bunks are taken. I finally spot the gentleman who I actually did have some conversation with that set his sister on fire.
Oh,
he was extremely happy that he only got 15 years when he was facing, I think, like upwards of 40. So he was in a pretty good spirits, all things considered. I noticed him and I say, hey, man, you care if I get up there? And he's like, nah, man, go ahead. And so for the rest of that night, I'm in there looking at the ceiling, trying to figure out how the hell I got myself in this situation. And I will say this, I was in there for some bad shit, obviously, but the conversations that were being had really kind of opened my eyes, right? Because I'm expecting the worst of the worst. These guys were in there trying to build each other up. I heard him really talking to this one guy's like, man, you need to get out of here. You need to start a landscaping business. It doesn't matter if you're a felon. You know, you can do it. You got a head on your shoulders. You don't need to be in here. And then they were talking about other people that had come out and had records and started jobs and opened businesses. Like they were really trying to build each other up. I seen a dude that had a bag with water in it, and that was what he was using to like lift weights. He was using the bag with water in it to lift weights. Very creative dudes in there, man. Very creative dudes. Once I got comfortable enough to think I was safe, I decided, you know what, I got to take a shower. I hadn't took a shower in days at that point. And so I was heading to the shower, and the guy stops me before I go in. He's like, hey, you know how to work the shower, right? Mind you, again, I'm heavily tattooed. I don't know if these guys thought I had been there before or I was a frequent flyer or whatever. If I had points in there in their stay or hotel system. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. He's like, oh, okay. So I go in there, and what it is it's a thing on the wall where you press it, the water comes out for like 3 seconds and then cuts off.
Yep.
But there's a piece of plastic that they have in there that you can wedge in there, and it keeps it running. I could not figure out how to get that to work. So I done my best holding with one hand, washing everything that was important, and get it on out of there. So long story short, it wasn't that much of a like bad experience. Granted, I wanted to get the hell out of there, but it wasn't that much of a bad experience.
Definitely not a good one.
Yeah. I get out the next day, thank fresh air, never felt so good. Go home, stand in front of my refrigerator. All the things that normal people take for granted, I was taking in. So I'm scheduled to go back to work the next day, right? I was only out of work for a period of time because of that back surgery. I'm scheduled to go back to work. I make my way back to work. Hey, can you head on over to the main office? I head on over to the main office, bring me in. They fire me. I said, why am I being fired? They said, well, given the nature of the case and everything and what you got going on, we just feel it's best if we part ways. And I'm like, look, I haven't even been found guilty of anything. Like I defended myself in my home. And he's like, yeah, I can't imagine what you're going through. And I'm like, well, imagine getting fucking fired on top of it. Like you're not doing me any favors. So I went from a matter of a couple of weeks from having a good life, making 6 figures, everything seemingly on the up, getting the wife back together, getting the family unit back together, to now I'm unemployed. I'm applying for food stamps. I'm applying for Medicaid, and I'm facing life in prison because that's what they're charging me with is 25 to life. So I leave. I just had to process that. So I drove around in circles for a little while. So my immediate thought now is I need a job to be able to pay shit. Well, the fact that they fired me helped me out a little bit. And I say that because at the time I'd been with a company called Nucor Steel for about 15 years. I had a pretty sizable 401k of about $150,000. So I withdrew all that. After they taxed it, I got back like 90 something. I paid my mom back. I paid my wife back. So they
could have borrowed against it instead of pulling it out.
Well, I needed all of it. That's the thing. Oh, okay. I needed all of it because I wasn't going to make them pay for, what I was going through. So that was 50 G's right off the bat out of the 90. I paid back.
If you had 150, you can borrow up to 80% of that. You don't have the taxable liability then.
Well, I mean, and the reason, like, still after that, I added another 15 for him to start the retainer because it was basically 65 total that I needed. I paid that in full. That way I didn't have to worry about it. I paid my car off as I paid some other credit card bills off. That way, if it was a while before I had a job, I didn't have to worry about too much. The wife could keep us afloat. So it was basically like I went into it with no bills. That was the thinking. I applied for a job as a container. I've always been a welder or something to do with metal trades. It was a container shop welder. Basically, when the trash cans would get dented in, you cut it out, you put new frames in. I go in, I tell the guy when it gets to the point where he's like, you never been arrested for anything? And I was like, well, as a matter of fact.
Funny you should bring that up.
And I tell him the story, and he's like, look, man, he's like, I done some criminal law class in school. He's like, don't sound like you got anything to worry about. And I'm like, well, that's good to hear. And he's like, but I'm still going to hire you. And he started me off at a decent wage. And he's like, we got to run everything through corporate, but you should be able to start next week. So I leave. I'm ecstatic. 2 days later, comes back from corporate. They run my background. They see a pending murder charge. They pull the offer. So now I know there's no need for me to go apply anywhere that's going to run my background, which drastically reduces your options. Luckily, I found a sign company that was hiring for a welder fabricator installer. And, the wage was close to what the other guy was offering me, not nowhere near what I was making. So I put in for that and I go, and of course they do have the question, have you ever been convicted? This was different. You ever been convicted of anything? I put no. And he asked me why I was looking to change careers, making so much money. And I told him, I was like, look, man, I said, I got kids. I was like, they're about to be involved in sports. I worked swing shift for 15 years, night shift straight for 7 of those. Now I've been on swing shift for the last 7.5. I said, I'm just looking for a change. And he's like, well, I can't match your pay. And I'm like, no, I don't need you to. I was like, pay me what you can pay me. And I just want straight days, be able to be a little bit normal of a person, live a normal life and be involved in my son's sports. So he took that and never asked really any more questions. And so at least I had a job at this point. I'm still working things with the lawyer. He's putting stuff together. The wheels of justice are not fast by any means. They're very slow. So there's nothing even going on the legal side of this. So I'm trugging along at work. Everything's going great. I'm about 4 or 5 months in. Of all the fucking luck. Can I cuss from here?
I'll be honest, I swear every 3 minutes, so I'm shocked.
Okay.
I'm shocked I
Of,
haven't sworn yet. My
of all the fucking luck.
My grandmother taught me a long time ago. She said, Chris, in life, people understand 75% of what you're saying when you don't swear. They fucking understand 100% of what you're saying when you do swear.
I believe that.
She was a smart woman.
So I'm 4 months in, and of all the fucking luck, they come to me and they said, hey, we got a job to put in a sign at your old employer. I was like, really? They said, yeah, they want to be a big LED sign out there. And I said, you want to go in for the install? No, I do not. I'm good. So they go out there and sure as shit, one of the guys begins to strike up a conversation. Hey man, what's going on with Wade? Or he told him one of the guys work out there. He told him my name. He's like, oh, how's he doing? What do you mean, how's he doing? I said, well, he was fighting that murder case. Murder case. So they found out. So they never said anything about it, but I knew they knew because some people told me. I also knew they knew because whenever they would send me to jobs that had anything to do with Air Force bases or military bases, they never would send me. They'd always send the other people. I think by that time they knew I was a good guy. I was trustworthy. I showed up to work, which is a lot more than most people do these days. And so they never said anything, but it was still like this anxiety that ate me alive every day. Every time I walked in there and I walked by that office, was he going to bring me in and be like, man, why didn't you tell me? And it ate me alive, bro. And I worked there for that. I got that in 2018, right after all this happened. I worked there all the way till COVID. And they did lay me off because of COVID, because the work obviously slowed down for the world. So they still looking for a job at that point. Now, by then, this is where I told you earlier, we had the forensics team come down. The forensics team come down. They line up everything. They set up the lasers. When they had the lasers set up, they had a shirt made with the exit wounds on the back of the shirt. They put it on our detective, who was about the same height as this guy. They're trying to line him up in front of me in the kitchen to where the laser hits on the exit wound to kind of set the stage of the scene. So we're trying to get him lined up, and he's just standing there, and they're trying to move him, and it's not adding up because it's went from the wall to the refrigerator back this way, because one of the bullets went through him, hit the refrigerator, ricocheted, and hit the wall. 2 of them were through and through. Only one stayed in. When they do the whole laser thing, they're trying to get him lined up, and I was like, well, look, man, he wasn't standing there. I was like, once he hit me, and he kind of stumbled a little bit, and I went back and drew out, I said, he was already coming at me, like, hunched over. Not hunched, but, like already his motion was already coming back to me. So he was kind of slouched over a little bit. When he slouched over, that laser went right on the mark on that shirt. And my lawyer looked at that and he said, we're good. We're good. That's all I need. He said, that paints the picture for the jury. I'm good. So from that point on, I never really even had anything to do with the lawyer. It was more or less just waiting for this thing to get to trial. We did have a preliminary hearing where the judge bound it to trial. I mean, it's pretty much always going to get bound to trial in that situation, even though the judge even said there's not a lot here, but given the situation, I'll bind it to trial. So we had that set up. And what the lawyer told me what we were prepping was for a immunity hearing based on self-defense and castle law. So that locked in his immunity hearing. So he was good. But like I said, COVID slowed everything down. So here I am looking for a job again. I get hired with a guy that was opening up a fabrication welding shop. I go in and we talk money. Money's good, actually making more than the sign shop. And I'm about to walk out. And I said, look, man, I said, I got to tell you something. I was like, I want to get something off my chest. I said, this ate me alive at my last job because I wasn't forthright. And I said, I can't, come in here every day and go through the same shit. And I gave him the spiel, the story, kind of like I'm telling you. And he looks at me and he said, man, I'm from Texas. He said, you didn't do shit I wouldn't have done. He's like, don't fucking worry about it. You good in my book. And I'm like, dude, thank you. And like, that was such a relief off me to know I didn't have to worry about it from him. And he had my back. And so really it just started gliding, man. And then I decided to start the podcast. I had no idea what I wanted to talk about. I had a friend of mine who gave me a little guidance and he's like, well, what all do you want to discuss? And I'm like, I don't know, man, true crime. And I was like, but I want to talk about movies and wrestlers and, all kind of whatever I find interesting. And he's like, so you want to do crime and entertainment? And I'm like, that's a hell of a name right there. I think I'm going to just take that and use it as a podcast. And so what started out as an audio only with a friend of mine in the garage after about 14 too many beers has blossomed into about a 4 year, I think, coming up career. And man, I've had the chance to interview all types of people, man, mob guys, drug smugglers, actors, authors, people that have been
I'm all
wrongfully
of those, by the
convicted.
way.
Oh, well, come on. People that have been wrongfully convicted in my shoes that have done, 22 years in prison, 17 years in prison, 5 years in prison. I've interviewed lawyers, people that went undercover in biker gangs. I interviewed the mayor of Las Vegas. I've interviewed some really cool people,
Who
man.
was that? Goodwin?
Goodwin, Oscar Goodman.
So he died, didn't he?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So because his wife is now the mayor.
She was. Is she the mayor now? I know she was.
I mean, unless I'm missing something, I think she still is.
Oh, she might be. I know she was in that video where the guy goes diving over the damn thing. That's her. The guy goes diving over the bench. I don't know who it is, but it's like this famous video.
Wait a second. That's her?
That's her.
No, that was a judge.
Was it?
I thought that's a judge. She was definitely mayor then. She wasn't being a judge. She wasn't a judge then.
Okay, maybe it was. Okay, maybe it was. I thought that somebody said that was good.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
yeah, I don't think Oscar's dead. I haven't heard that he died.
Well, you know what? I'm going to ask Rock. Who is the mayor of Las Vegas? All right. Grok is thinking. Oh, Shelley Berkeley is the current mayor of Las Vegas. She was elected in November of 2024, sworn in December. Yeah, she was serving. Yeah, she took over for Goodwin's wife.
Yeah, because he served 3 terms as mayor. And before all that, if you ever watched the movie Casino, which is a great movie, he actually played himself in the movie because he represented all those guys, Tony Spilotro, Rosenthal, all the mob guys. He was their lawyer back when he practiced law. And so just, a ton of great guys, man, that I've had on. And I'm doing all this. I'm traveling. I'm going to New York. They're letting me go to New York. I don't have an ankle monitor on. I'm on house arrest, but I don't have an ankle monitor on. They give me permission to go to New York to do this podcast because technically it's money. I wasn't making a ton of
Which one?
I went up there and interviewed Anthony Ruggiano, who's a former Gambino guy. We done some in-person, in-studio stuff. The first in-studio podcast I'd ever did. And like I said, they let me go. And so we knocked that out. We come back a couple months later. Hey, man, everything you did went real good. Want to invite you back and do another one. I had to do all the paperwork. I said, man, can I go back? They was like, yeah, you can go back. So now second time, boom. All of a sudden now third time. I'd have to go back a third time. And I told my lawyer, I'm like, look, now we're almost 5 years after the incident. And I said, man, this could be a reoccurring thing. Like the podcast is starting to pick up a little bit. I was like, where the fuck are we at with this thing? And he was like, look, the solicitors changed 3 times. A new guy just got it. His name was Pat Jennings, I think it is. I don't know, it's something Jennings. He was like, I'm gonna reach out to him and see where we're at. So he sends an email, copies me on it, and he was like, hey, we're just, really looking forward to getting this thing to bed. He was like, ready to go to court whenever you are, yada yada, yada, almost like pressing for it. And he's like, let me get caught up on the case and I'll get back with you. About 2 weeks later, he gets back to him. And my lawyer calls me and he said, look, he's like, I got something I want to run by you. He's like, it's a gamble, but if you're down for it, I'm down for it. He says, I want to call a meeting. And he said, we're going to show them everything we got, everything that bolsters our case and proves your innocence. And he said, I believe, Wade, this is so strong that he will dismiss this case. He said, however, if there's something that he's got that I don't know about or something that he thinks is powerful, he said, we've tipped our hand and given him everything we have. And now he's able to use it and see how we're going to present it in court. He's like, so I'm going to leave the ball in your court. I said, brother, I'm a gambling man. Let's roll the dice. So we set to meet. We go there. My forensics guys put together like a DVD, and it's like a step-by-step thing of like, okay, well, in y'all's interpretation, you're saying there was no way they were in close proximity. And so the way they break it down is like, if he wasn't in close proximity, these bullets wouldn't have had a chance to separate because he was so close. 2 bullets struck the refrigerator. One struck the refrigerator side, ricocheted and hit the wall. One missed the refrigerator and hit a 24-pack of water that was sitting beside it. So he said, had he been further back, those bullets wouldn't have had a chance to separate like that. They would have hit closer side by side. Because they went through him and he was so close to me, they had a chance to V out. And that was one thing that blew it up. Another one was, he said they had an altercation, but there was no signs of an altercation. The first arriving officer's body cam footage, when he comes in, you can see a knocked over shot glass on the ground, a knocked over like glass similar to this, not this one, but a little heavier than this, knocked over on the counter. You could see there was obvious signs of a struggle. And then they said, well, there was no blood on him. How does he, say that he did all this, but yeah, he don't have any blood on him. You remember telling me as I was telling you when we first started this, there was hardly any blood at all. Even when the footage, when the EMS and the paramedics pick him up, you can barely see blood coming out of the back of his shirts. He was wearing 3 layers of clothes. So there wasn't any blood. And then when I pulled up his shirt, when the 911 operator told me to do it and find the wounds, I had to look around. I couldn't even see blood. There was no blood. I just left the towel laying there and held it against what I did see because that's what they told me to do. And he said, look, he's like, the guy left a towel there. He's like, who else went and got that? Nobody else went and got it. It had to be him. The towel don't even have blood on it hardly. And so he basically shot holes in everything they were using to try to say that I was, I don't know, lying or whatever narrative they were trying to spin. So when we get done with our thing, they said, all right, well, we'll show you what we got, but he's not allowed in here. We can have y'all do it. So they told me to go on back to my home. After that, everybody was going to come to my home. Well, I go on back home. My investigator gets there first before anybody else. And I asked him, I said, so what'd they have? He's like, bro, they ain't got nothing. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, they got nothing. He's like, they got the evidence they took from you. They got your clothes. They got your gun. They got your computer. For whatever reason, they took my computer. Just bought the damn thing, brand new computer, $600. They took it. And he was like, they got nothing that, is like, that's what they had, or that's why they think this or what. And I was like, so what are we doing? He's like, bro, I don't know. So they all come there. The head solicitor, which, I think they call them DAs everywhere else, but solicitors here. They come in the house and I explain the story just like I'm explaining to you. And I take that actual rocks glass that's real heavier than this one, but I put it in his hand. I said, man, feel this. I said, does that feel like something you could just knock over easily? I said, when I went back after he hit me and I went back into the corner, I said, my back hit it as it knocked over. And I'm showing him everything, the dents in the refrigerator. We're standing there. I never changed the refrigerator. It didn't go in the door. It hit it and ricocheted off. I still got the refrigerator right now. It's in my garage. And I explain everything to him. I walk him through it. And you could tell he took it in, but he didn't say much. And he was like, all right. He's like, he asked me a couple questions, nothing like major. And he was like, all right, I'll get back with you guys and let you know something. This was September of 2022. Yeah, 2022. September goes by, October goes by, almost 31st, or right the week, a couple of days before Halloween. My lawyer calls me. I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing from them. My lawyer calls me, and it's not out of the blue that he calls me. He didn't call me often, but it wasn't like I knew this was the phone call. And it shows up, answer, and he's like, Wade, what's going on? I said, actually feeling a little sick, man. Not feeling good. Turns out I had the flu. And he said, well, I got some news going to make you feel better. He said, you are officially a free man. Your charges have been dismissed. Your record is in the process of being expunged. You've got this off of you. You're more than welcome to come back to my office and pick up the remaining guns that you let me. When I got out, I had to turn in all my firearms. I wasn't allowed to have firearms as a condition to my bond. So all my guns I gave to him, which he kept at the lawyer's office. He said, you can come up here and get all your belongings back. And I was like, man, are you serious? And he's like, it's over, brother. It's over. And I ain't ashamed to tell you, I dropped to my knees. I cried like a baby. I called my mom. I called, thank God. Yeah. First and foremost, obviously. And, I called my mom and called my dad and called my wife and, son, daughter, everybody, and just, let them know it was over. And I was already sick anyway, but that, just kind of really put me in an emotional state. And my boss was like, man, go home. He's like, go home, celebrate with your family. And so I left. I did go to the doctor later on that night, wound up, I had the flu. So it was like the best feeling in the world. And also one of the worst feelings in the world at the same time. But, it was just so much to come through. And the podcast became my crutch. It became my drug, my alcohol, my pill. It was what most people, when they're going through this stressful situation, would turn to help get them through it. I turned to that because it consumed my time. When you're doing all this shit yourself, which I'm sure you probably know, editing and posting on social medias, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Reels, caption this, hashtag that, post at the right time, figure out what the algorithm's doing. It's a lot of fucking
work. That motherfucking algorithm, man, yeah. She's a bitch.
And when you're doing all this on your own, man, it's time consuming, but that was a good thing for me.
You learned a lot.
Got my time. I learned a lot. And if I wasn't thinking, I started being nervous and I started thinking about bad shit, because no matter how many people ever told me, man, you got this, man, don't worry. You're not in my shoes. People go to jail for shit they don't do all the time. I know. I've talked to them. I've interviewed them after they've done 20 years and they shouldn't have went to jail. So I appreciate the thoughts, but that don't, completely help. And I told everybody it was like basically going to the doctor to see if you had terminal cancer. And they're saying, all right, I'll call you back. And you're not hearing anything for 5 years.
Yeah.
That was what I felt inside every day. I used to have hair at one time. I don't got much up there anymore. And
by the way, just so we're clear, hair is overrated. Just so
it is. It is.
It's way overrated.
But I mean, that's the story in a nutshell, man. And when it was over, people thought I might stop with the podcast, but no, I kept going. I love it. I enjoy it. It's not my only job. I've got another job, but I really enjoy what I do, and it gives me.
So let me ask you a couple
of
questions.
People. Yeah,
you've been doing the podcast for a while now. And podcasting has grown over the last 4 or 5 years tremendously. What would you tell people that are looking to build their personal brand, their business brand, and get exposure about doing podcast interviews?
So, number one, if you're going to do it and you're going to be serious about it, like a lot of people don't understand the workload that it entails, right? Everybody wants to start a podcast until you start a podcast. If you're going to really do it,
dude, that's going to be a great clip. Thing. Everyone wants to do a podcast till you start doing a podcast.
Yeah. So my first advice is, if you're really going to do it, invest a little money into some good equipment. If you're going to do audio only, invest in a good microphone. If you're going to do video, invest in a good camera. If you don't do it, trust me, there's going to be somebody else out there that'll buy it from you on Facebook Marketplace. You won't take too much of a hit. Invest in some good equipment. If you go back and look at my first video I ever did, grainy, could barely even make me out. Guest was crisp and clear, real grainy. I've grown so much exponentially. Learn. There's YouTube videos. You can teach yourself. I knew absolutely nothing about podcasting, about editing. I knew how to talk. I've always been a talker, but I never knew anything about the background side of it. So I had to learn all that. And those programs are free. I use DaVinci Resolve to this day to edit all my podcasts, and it's the free version. I use Audacity to edit the audio sides of my podcast. It's the free version. I still use those free versions to this day. I've upgraded equipment in other areas since then, bigger hard drives, more space, faster computers for the rendering, the upload faster. But those are things because I've kept it going. But I tell people the number one thing, invest in some equipment if you really want to do it. And then understand it's going to take some dedication. And then it's all about networking and who you get. Get the right people, get plugged in with the right people.
Whoever your brand is. Podcasting helped you expand your brand? Have you gotten some benefits and values from doing all these interviews?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've gotten, because not only do I interview people, but I'm interviewed on other platforms like this right here. So a lot of times you're able to double dip. So I'll travel. Somebody will want to bring me up there to tell my story, and then I get to interview them. For instance, I went to Miami about 3 weeks ago, and this guy had his own studio set up, and his buddy wanted to interview me because they had a podcast, and I wound up interviewing him, his buddy, and another guy that was there, and I got all the footage. So I paid for the flight up there, but But I got 3 interviews out of it because they wanted to interview me. So you figure out ways to double dip. You know, in my case, I have a story that I can tell, and then I also want someone else that has an interesting story to come back on my place or my podcast. And then also, it just depends on what you're doing. Like true crime covers a lot. So, you know, you can, that's a lot of an umbrella you can cover in there, whether they were either related to the crime, directly related, it wrote a book about it. It's a vast umbrella that you can get. But if you're under a certain type of niche, you know, get in with whoever is the big dog in that area. I've been very blessed to have become friends with a gentleman named Matt Cox. He runs Inside True Crime. He's out of Tampa, Florida. He's got about 800,000 subs and, you know, great guy. And I met him when he had 70,000 subs. He was the first show that I ever went on and told my story. And meeting that guy and the help that he's given me and the exposure he's given me and the people that he's connected me to is undeniable in my growth as a podcaster. 100%. I owe him a lot. And he didn't have to do that. He didn't know me a thing. He didn't even know me. And he was just, you know, real moved by the story. Immediately after we got done, he called his buddy who's
Man, I got somebody who wants to say hi to you too.
Hey, there you go.
This is Gracie. She hasn't been convicted of anything other than being too loving.
That's good. That's a good thing.
You got a dog?
I do. Husky, Siberian Husky.
What's his name or her name?
Kino, him.
Oh, good name, Kino.
Yep. Yep.
Got to take him. Got to take him to Vegas one day. Just play a little Kino with him.
But so, I mean, that's my advice, man. Just networking. Networking opens more doors than any college degree ever thought about. And I'll stand on that any day.
That's another good one-liner. Networking opens more doors than any college degree will ever do for you. 100%. So let me ask you another question. How much does faith matter to you now, and how much did it matter to you before when you're still going through this?
Man, it's everything. And, you know, I know some people are going to say, well, man, he's been cussing like a sailor. Look, you want to call me a backslid Baptist, a cussing Christian, whatever you want. God definitely shined his light on me through this whole situation. Do I do everything the way I should? Probably not, but who does, you know? And I even had people come at me and say, you know, you shouldn't be interviewing these people. You know, they do bad stuff. And I'm like, look, I would have been, you know, I've interviewed some OnlyFans models, you know, quite a few, as a matter of fact. And, you know, they have the mob guys. People say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And I can say, look, they're going to talk regardless. I told my wife, I said, you know, if I'm interviewing these mob guys,
you can't bring people closer to faith unless you bring them closer to faith. If you don't talk to the other side, you're never going to learn what their message is so that you can bring them closer to the faith. You know, it's funny. We just lost Charlie Kirk, and all he did was have dialogue. All he did was have conversations. Yep. He had a conversation with anybody. You could be an OnlyFans girl. You can be a lefty. You can be, in fact, you could be a communist. You could be a killer. And he would have a dialogue with you. And it's through dialogue that we bring people closer together.
And see, that's why, if you want my opinion, people will say, you know, he was always talking and that's what got him killed. Maybe so. But I think what really got him killed is not what he said. It's that people listened. People listened.
Well, the reason why he got killed is people couldn't argue with him. He was a great conversationalist. So if they can't win the argument, there's certain people that go around and they're demons. They're literally demons. They believe in all the values of Satan. They say, hey, if I can't win the argument, I'm going to kill this person.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And he was such a good dude, man. His death has affected me way more than any, I don't want to say celebrity, but any person that like I'm not directly related to. You know what I'm saying? It had me sad, man.
He was the greatest civil rights activist of our modern era.
100%.
Martin Luther King of free speech. And yeah. I got to tell you, it's really changed my perspective on the world we live in. I've come to the reality that there are people in this world, in this country, in my neighborhood that are demons, that they are literally embracing the word of Satan, or they are literally listening to the word of Satan, bring them closer to being a demon and embracing that part. And I don't care if they're radical left. I don't care if they're transgender. I don't care who they are. They're literally listening to the evilest side of their brain. And I don't care how that conversation gets in their brain. Maybe it comes in from a professor or a teacher in school. I don't know where the message is coming from, but inherently it ultimately comes from Satan. And it is a battle of good versus evil. It is a battle of God over Satan. It is literally a battle for the soul of mankind.
I agree 100%. And, you see a lot of people are starting to, there's some consequences to the actions of stuff people are posting. People are getting fired for doing certain things. And I
Well, I
seen
mean,
some
you
big
can't
posts
you
of
can't
them.
literally openly post joy and happiness over somebody being killed for his opinion, a father of two. You can't do that and not expect your employer to say, hey, that doesn't fall in line with the values of the rest of our company. You can't be a demon on social media and expect to be a part of a company whose values may be totally different and may actually align with Christianity and faith. You know,
100%.
if I have a company, I want my brand aligned with faith, not with demons, not with Satan, not with evil.
No, 100%. And it was somebody on Facebook and they was like, well, what happened to free speech? And I'm like, well, you know what? Charlie Kirk practiced free speech all the time and you shot him for it. So,
Well,
you know,
you have free speech. You definitely have free speech, but there's consequences for evil speech. If you're going to be aligned with Satan, if you're going to be a demon, trust me, companies don't want to align themselves with a demon. Schools
100%.
do not want to align themselves with a demon. The government does not want to align itself with demons.
I agree 100%.
And
But
by the
yeah,
way, Charlie was running around talking about free speech, about faith. He was talking about family. He was talking about being a better man. Those are values that people can get their arms around. If you're laughing about a man that was shot and killed and assassinated and taken away from his family and his children, those are values that align with Satan. Those are values that make you a demon. Those are values that nobody wants to be aligned with. The government, schools, companies, nobody wants to be aligned with that. So you have free speech, but you also have consequences to your speech.
yeah, 100%. It makes you the worst kind of person to do that too. And so, I mean, I know that was, kind of a long answer to your question, but faith was hugely impactful. And, I always say this, like I've survived car wrecks, as I mentioned, a pretty bad car wreck that was the reason why that back injury was what it was. I survived this incident in this kitchen. There's no doubt in my mind that if I hadn't had a gun on me that night, he would have killed me and then probably went back over to where my wife was, killed my wife, killed my son, killed my daughter, and then would have been burying four people instead of one or five
Well,
people.
here's the lucky thing. I hate to say this, but if that situation happened in California or some very insane legislation state,
I'm done.
I'm not kidding you. Like, I'm not so sure you actually are a free man afterwards
Yeah.
because the law is inherently very political, and you were very lucky to be in the South. Trust me.
Oh yeah. 100%. I agree with that. And that's just like you said, another thing that's, it helped me out. I got so many throughout all this tragedy. I had so many breaks and just things that broke my
Not a
way.
break, buddy. It's not a
Yeah.
break. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Well, I mean, yeah. And him,
It's
like I
the
said,
hand of God. It's faith.
he opened up all these things and all these opportunities that even now, like, dude, I've been able to talk to some of the coolest people in the world. I'm a huge Sopranos guy. I love that TV show. I've talked to 7 people that were on that show. I was one of the last interviews that Tom Sizemore did before he died. He was a natural born
Wait,
killer.
Tom Sizemore?
Tom Sizemore, yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't on The Sopranos, was he?
No, 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 no. I'm just going
Oh,
through the
okay.
list here.
Yeah,
He
no, I
was
know Tom Sizemore from Platoon. Great role in Platoon.
Heat. He was in Heat, bank robber in Heat.
Oh yeah, he was in Heat.
Um,
He got shot with the little girl in his
yep.
arms.
Natural born killers, Saving
Oh, he
Private
was.
Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. No, Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, he was the one that at the end who had those little metal things of dirt.
Yeah, I mean, just an awesome actor,
Hey,
man. And
when did
again,
he die?
he died about 2 years ago. About 2 years ago.
And we're
Yeah.
we're losing a lot of good people lately. Like
And we talked for like almost 3 hours, and I interviewed Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong, Oscar Goodman, like we mentioned earlier. Tons of guys from the life throughout of organized crime, and none of these guys praise that life. They always say it was bad and it cost them their families and it cost them years in jail. And the movies glamorize it to a point, but there's consequences to all this. And that's essentially what the theme of my show is. There might be some benefits, but those benefits are very, very small in duration. and the repercussions and the loss from the time you go away in prison, from family and everything, it far outweighs the few benefits that do come, with that life.
I couldn't agree with you more. So listen, we've got some things going on here in Vegas, and we got a great studio, Sirius XM studio. I got to get you out to Vegas. We got to do some
I was
fun
just
stuff.
out there a few months ago. I interviewed with Sean Kelly.
Oh, how is Sean?
He's good. He's good. Busy as always. Very tall gentleman.
He's definitely tall and lanky. I've known Sean for a while. His actual first podcast was a podcast we did together. I want to say we did for 5 hours, kicking off CES inside of a studio called God, what was the name of that studio? Oh, I can't remember the name, but yeah, it was a small little studio, and literally a couple months later he started his own podcast.
Yeah, blew up. I was out there. I've been out there twice this year so far. I had an event I was covering with some guys that have a wrestler called CatchCon Wrestling, and I had a chance to interview Frank Shamrock, who was the chairman of that
Oh, I know Frank.
organization.
His brother, what's his
Ken.
brother? Ken. Yeah, both those guys. They're all over Vegas here.
Oh yeah.
In fact, we've got the Celebrity Arm Wrestling Challenge coming up on October 9th and 10th. How would you like to be on stage and arm wrestle a couple of guys?
Well, I don't know. I might interview maybe. I don't know about the arm wrestling. I missed the gym about today. That makes
Listen,
35
it's
years
not whether
straight.
you win or lose. It's about getting that camera time, getting some content.
Exactly.
I'll put you up against the midget OnlyFans girl, and make it more fair for you.
I don't know if I lose that. There ain't no coming back
Oh,
from that.
trust me, it's hard to come back from that one. You can come back from a murder charge, but you lose to a midget arm wrestler who's a
I'm done.
OnlyFans, it's over.
No, I love Vegas, man. I actually just got the email yesterday that they're doing CrimeCon there next year
Okay,
at the Caesars. I mean, hopefully I'll get out before that, but yeah, I'll definitely hit up CrimeCon next year for sure.
sounds good. Wade, great story. Leave people with two things before we end this podcast. One, you just overcame a lot of fear for the last couple of years. Talk a little bit about how you overcome fear, because a lot of people let fear hold them back from their best job, their best opportunities, their best life. Talk a little bit about how you overcame fear.
Well, number one, like we mentioned earlier, is you got to have faith. I think number one, first and foremost, you got to have faith in God that He's going to lead you through it. If you don't have that, you got a tough road to hoe. I'm gonna tell you. Second is family. I was fortunate enough that I had family to back me. We didn't have the money to put up for all this. We had the credit, so and in order to do that, I was lucky because some people have to depend on public defenders. But regardless of what it is, and I can tell you this, I've talked to people that's been in jail for decades. And the one thing that they always say, and it's the one thing that I can say too, you can't give up. You can't let it get the best of you. A great quote I heard, and I don't know if I can remember it word for word, but it said, everybody falls in water, but it's only the people that drown that choose to stay there. You got to swim up. You got to swim up. And that is just the best advice I can give, man, no matter what it is. And hopefully yours is not as serious as mine, where you're looking at 25 to life in the can, but whatever it is, you can come out of it. You get fired, there's probably a reason. There was 2 or 3 jobs that I didn't get, that I missed out on in the midst of all this, that had I gotten that one, I wouldn't be at the spot where I'm now. And I'm now making what I was making before all this happened, probably more so. So you can't always be upset if you don't get what you want, because it's part of a bigger plan. The whole thing is you got to keep fighting. That's the number one thing. And I'm a big Panther fan here. I try to be, in the Carolinas, and their motto is keep pounding. And that's what you got to do. No matter the situation, no matter how down it is, how dark it is, you got to keep pounding. That's the first thing, first and foremost. Keep pounding.
All right. Second question. I'm going to let you leave it on this. Give people something inspirational, inspire them to do something great with their life.
So find out something you're passionate about. Like, before all this, I didn't listen to podcasts. I may listen to a Joe Rogan, every now and then if he had somebody on there I wanted to hear, but I had no idea, no thought process that I would ever do a podcast, because I didn't even listen to them. And then as I got to doing it, I think, hey, I'm not terrible at this. I'm pretty good. And you interview people that you have an interest on talking to, that can bleed through if you don't have an interest in actually the subject matter. But do something you're passionate about. It may not be podcasting. It may be detailing cars, or, you know, it may be gardening, or it may be lawn work, or it may be flipping houses. Do something that you're passionate about and drive it, drive it, drive it. Don't let anybody tell you they can't do it. You know, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Or did I say that backwards?
No, I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think doubt kills a lot of dreams.
Yeah.
And I think I always tell people you've got to be passionate about your purpose. You have to have passion and purpose in your life. Otherwise, you're just going to go through the motions every single day. You're just punching time. You got to live your life. You got to make it juicy. You got to make it experiential. You got to make it good.
And the one thing too, and I had a great friend of mine, Chris Colombo, told me this quote, and I love it to death. When you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Oh, I like that. When you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Mm-hmm.
Wade, we got to do this again sometime. Chop it up.
Absolutely, brother. I got a lot more stories. This was just one.
Sounds good. Wade, I appreciate your time, man. Hold on one second.